Welcome to Connect, powered by the Fulton County Department of Senior Services. I am your host, Ladisa Onilagu. This show connects you to information, services, and programs that increase awareness around safety, health, and wellness. Why? Because it is what is most important right now, not only to the Department of Senior Services, but to Fulton County government. The National Coalition on Mental Health and Aging says that most older adults have good mental health. However, mental health disorders, especially depression and anxiety, are exacerbated by social isolation, which affects the manner in which one engages with family members. It also affects the personal gauge of well-being. Regarding physical health management and older adults with diabetes, emotional health can also be impacted. But we have good news for you today. We will explore behavioral health solutions and diabetes stress management for older adults. So stay tuned. We're back and glad to have you with us today on Connect. I'm Ladisa Onilagu. In the past, mental health was associated with a stigma. Stigma can be defined as the social disapproval of personal characteristics or beliefs that are against cultural norms. There are three common types of stigma that affect older adults. For example, self-stigma, which is where an older adult may fear acknowledging their own substance abuse or mental illness. Public stigma is another example where providers, employers, or the general public may view older adults with substance abuse or mental health challenges as people who won't get better with treatment or maybe not even worth treating. Institutional stigma is a third example and an assumption that these individuals affect public policy and funding decisions, resulting in discrimination. The good news is that many achievements have been made to overcome stigmas. This means that older adults are more open to receiving supportive and behavioral health services. This brings us to our first guest today, Mrs. Latrina Foster, Director of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities for Fulton County. Her department offers effective programs for older adults experiencing mental health challenges. Ms. Foster has a wealth of experience providing individual, group, and family therapy services to children, adolescents, and adults living with mental health and/or substance use disorders. She has spent her time raising awareness of behavioral health and has graciously accepted our invitation to share with us today. Ms. Foster, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So let's begin with the basics. What is behavioral health? And can you give a few examples of mental health disorders or challenges experienced by older adults?
Yes, so when we use the term behavioral health in our world, it's a combination of mental health and substance use disorders. But if we just define mental health is the psychological and emotional well-being of an individual. So with that definition, we can all raise our hand and say we have mental health, correct? So
Yes.
When it becomes problematic is when we start talking about mental health disorders, where our ability to think and feel is impacted by something that prevents us from expressing ourselves in a functional way. And so that's how we transition into mental health disorders. And then the substance use disorder portion is the same thing as a person's inability to drink or utilize drugs without it impairing their functioning.
County services were greatly impacted because of the pandemic. How has this changed the way you and your team deliver services?
County services and services across the world were impacted. One thing we did is that we knew that we cannot allow a gap in services because individuals that are seeking mental health services, there is no room for delaying. So we immediately converted our services over to a virtual platform where we continue to connect with the individuals that we were rendering services to And then we were also taking on new clients by providing this virtual platform, as well as those that were not tech savvy. We would also just make wellness calls to ensure that they were okay during this transition in the world of COVID.
So let's bring it home to a self-awareness check. And if someone wants to know how to gauge what's happening internally, how can someone tell if their stress levels are increasing?
So everyone responds differently, but if you find yourself with an inability to sleep, you're struggling with sleeping at night, you're waking up in the middle of the night, you're staying up for hours, experiencing insomnia, or you're oversleeping, you're always tired, exhausted, you're overeating, or you're not eating, you're not engaging in physical activity, you're not talking to friends, and usually you are that social butterfly. If you recognize changes in your behavior, it's time to press pause and just do a quick assessment of yourself. Hey, what's going on with me? And if you feel like, you know what, I'm overwhelmed with worry, with stress, I think a lot of us can raise our hands right now and say that we're experiencing overwhelming feelings of anxiety or sadness because of the world that we're currently living in. But if you recognize that something is different within you, it's just time to do a quick self-check. And if you feel like it's impeding you from functioning on a day-to-day basis, if you're responsible to get up every morning and get on your computer and begin work at 8:30 and you're struggling to do that, or you're showing up late, it may be time to reach out for help.
I'm glad you gave a practical way. Again, just push pause, and it's okay to acknowledge that something is happening. I mean, there are people who have experienced loss before the pandemic, still are, or there could be some changes in their own personal health. So to do a self-check like that is critical. So, what percentage of older adults meet the criteria for some form of mental disorder or illness, and what programs are available to help them in Fulton County?
So research shows us that approximately 20% of older adults experience a mental illness past the age of 55. That was pre-COVID. I just want to highlight that is pre-COVID research. So we may see next year that number soars based on what people have experienced during the world of COVID with the self-isolation. And I think that is probably going to increase that number based on where we are today, with individuals having to self-isolate and not be around their loved ones. However, we are here to serve, and we are here to ensure that our seniors remain healthy, and not just your physical health. It is imperative that when we define health, the word mental health is inclusive of that definition of your holistic health. We currently are providing our services via Zoom or Google Duo, but on some virtual platform. But we've also opened up 2 clinics for those individuals that are not tech savvy and feel like they want to see someone face to face. So we have 2 clinics that are open: the Center for Health and Rehabilitation, which is in our Metro Atlanta area, and then our South Fulton Service Center, which is in South Fulton. But both of those clinics are open 2 days a week. So if you need that in-person service, and we are taking every single precaution to ensure that anyone that enters our facility remain safe. So we're wearing masks. We require that you wear a mask. We're doing our social distancing. We have our barrier blocks up for the clinicians that you meet with. So services are here, and we're ready to serve.
If we stretch this out a little bit, from the help that's available to the hope that is available, let our viewers know, is there any hope in reducing behavioral health symptoms?
Absolutely. Recovery is real, and we try to demonstrate the realness and reality of recovery every day by bringing in peers, people who have struggled with mental health disorder, diagnosed mental health disorders, and they've implemented effective coping strategies. They're on their medication if needed. Not everyone needs the same treatment regimen. they're on their medication, they're fully functioning, they're doing well. They still may have a mental health disorder, but they're able to manage when those symptoms surface because they're implementing coping skills that they've learned through their course of treatment. So recovery is 100% a reality. And even if you don't have a full-blown clinically diagnosed mental health disorder, however you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling anxious, you can always implement effective coping strategies to minimize those symptoms. It's okay not to be okay. None of us are okay all the time, but we need to recognize when we're not okay and realize what will help us make it through whatever we're experiencing at that time.
Great insight. It is okay to not be okay. And I hope our viewers will repeat that a couple of times when they feel themselves just not exactly to 100% of where they function. So Ms. Foster, do you have any last thoughts or tips that you'd like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. I would just encourage everyone. We're all experiencing the same thing right now, and that's COVID, right? I just encourage everyone to just press pause. That's my favorite saying, press pause and realize what will work for you. If that's journal writing, if that's gardening, if it's cooking, if it's exercising, listening to music, whatever it is, that's what we call effective coping skills. That's what we call strategies, interventions. Implement those in your life on a daily basis and take a minute out for you. No matter how chaotic the day is, just press pause, take 15 minutes just for you to kind of do some deep breathing, get your thoughts together, and then move on to tackle the remainder of your day.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you. And thank you for highlighting the importance of mental health. We appreciate you.
Well, you're welcome. We'll be right back. If you've just tuned in, you're watching Connect, powered by the Fulton County Department of Senior Services. A study published on PubMed.gov revealed that there had been a substantive increase in the level of diabetes-related and general life stress and social isolation due to the pandemic, with a significant impact on disease management. At the early onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, access to physicians, specialists, or healthcare providers was altered. Some of you might have experienced canceled or postponed appointments. Others of you watching now engage in telehealth. The study surveyed a little over 1,000 individuals and concluded that there were some increases in general and diabetes-related stress and social isolation and negative effects on the way that they manage their diabetes. Our next guest, Ms. Amy Reese, is a doctor of physical therapy, neurologic certified specialist, and certified wellness coach with more than 20 years of experience. She has formed 2 businesses to address the needs of individuals and caregivers living with a chronic condition or disability. The first is Optimized Performance PT, a specialized training service. The second one is Chronic Wellness Coach, or TCWC. It is an online virtual business to help individuals living with a chronic condition and their family caregivers live as well as possible. Ms. Reese, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Will you share with us a little bit about the connection between stress and diabetes?
Sure. Well, I think most people, when they're managing diabetes, are very familiar with, they want to increase their physical activity. They want to choose better foods to eat. And they, of course, they want to take their medication if it's prescribed. I think what's less known is how stress negatively affects blood sugar levels and diabetes. And so, in fact, when we are stressed from any cause, but certainly during COVID, or if you are a caregiver, or even just having a car accident, when you get into a stressful situation and you feel that tension in your body, What's actually happening is that hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are being released as part of that fight or flight response that we have when we're stressed. And that triggers glucose being released into the bloodstream, which is the exact opposite of what a diabetic needs, right? So more glucose is released into the bloodstream when we're stressed, but a diabetic doesn't have the insulin response to bring those blood sugar levels back down. So they're left with these elevated levels of blood sugar. And that happens, when you're in an immediate stressful situation like a car accident, but it also happens for people who are under chronic stress. You've been worried about something or dealing with a stressful situation for a long time. The same thing's happening to your body. You're getting this input of glucose into your bloodstream, which counters the exercising and the eating well and the medication that you're trying to take to control your diabetes. And I just think that stress management piece is less known. People don't know as well about stress management as they do about eating and exercising.
I agree. So you've set up the framework for the physical aspects of stress and diabetes. What are some of the psychological aspects of the disease?
I think for diabetics, there could be several examples here, but I'm going to just try to focus on one or two. When you are managing diabetes, there is something called diabetes distress. And that is the negative thoughts and emotions that come with managing this disease day after day. And I think it's probably especially true for those who are having health complications from diabetes. And so if you're experiencing retinopathy, which is your vision being impaired from diabetes, or kidney damage, or neuropathy in your feet or hands, when you're having these complications, it can cause a lot of anxiety and worry for someone managing that condition, worried about how their health is going to be in the future or if they're managing everything correctly. Stress with diabetes is not just about the physical symptoms they're experiencing. It's about the social impact it may have on their relationships, the worry about the future and their health in the future, and even financial. There can be a lot of financial stress. The cost of the prescription medications or insulin, the number of doctor visits that they've got to manage, missing time from work or feeling like their boss may not feel like they're doing enough at work. All this adds to the psychological aspects of diabetes.
So how does stress affect diabetes in older adults? Is there any difference from what you just shared?
Well, I think in general, stress can, we talked about how it can raise your blood glucose levels when those hormones are released during stress. But what that stress does in itself is it can make you erratic with your eating. And I'll take COVID for an example, because I've been home with my kids now for 45, 46 weeks. You're not on a routine during COVID as much as you try. It's even this far into the pandemic. I know we're still struggling to find a routine. And as a diabetic, if you're not on a routine with taking your medication, getting in your physical activity, and eating well, then it makes it that much more difficult to control your blood sugar levels. And when your blood sugar levels aren't controlled well, you can have additional health problems. You can have mood swings. There's a lot of consequences to not having your blood sugar levels controlled. So I think that the way stress is affecting older adults mostly right now, and those adults with diabetes, is that it's been difficult to find a new routine in COVID. You might be scared to go to the gym to exercise. You might be scared to walk outside to exercise. Maybe you used to walk with a friend to make exercising easier or more pleasurable, and you aren't doing that now. All these little things make it difficult to stay on a routine, which is really one of the best things that a diabetic needs to do, is to be on that routine with medication, exercise, and then feeling like they can eat well and stick to a healthy routine. And the other component, I think, is that we're probably seeing, as your last guest mentioned, a rise in depression. Diabetics are already at risk for depression because of the stress of managing diabetes. that has probably gone up with this pandemic. And when you are depressed, you're just simply less motivated to participate in those healthy lifestyle choices that you need to make to manage your diabetes well.
You know, that's why this show and the theme, the topic is so important, just because of all of the factors that are culminating together that are impacting the mental health, the disease management. You can hear the compassion in your voice for this population and those that are struggling with chronic conditions. And before the show, you and I talked a little bit about what you wanted to make sure our audience walked away with. So why are diabetics at risk for poor sleep? And what are the consequences of not getting enough rest at night?
Right. So for anybody, there is risk to not getting good sleep. If you have been struggling with sleep, not just a night or two, but you're chronically struggling with getting good sleep, your body doesn't get into those deeper sleep modes that help your muscles and tissues repair and your cells, which is part of managing your health. So when you have a health condition like diabetes or many different health conditions, you need that deep sleep for your body to restore itself, to restore your energy. It helps you to think more clearly. When you don't sleep, it negatively impacts your memory. And of course, when we don't sleep, we're irritable, and it just affects our social relationships as well. But for diabetics, they are at risk for not getting good sleep for a few different reasons. They are at higher risk for having restless leg syndrome, which is a painful syndrome in the feet and legs that increases at night. So just as you're getting ready to go to bed, your feet and calves start to hurt, and they can hurt significantly, which either makes it harder to fall asleep or it could wake you up once you have fallen asleep. Diabetics also tend to go to the bathroom more at night because having high blood sugars makes you urinate more frequently. So if your blood sugars are high, you're going to be getting up frequently throughout the night to go to the bathroom. And then diabetics are also at risk for sleep apnea, which is when our breathing is interrupted or we kind of gasp for breath as we're sleeping. That again wakes you up out of those deep cycles of sleep. So for different reasons, diabetics are at risk for not getting good sleep. And getting good sleep is important to managing diabetes well. It's important to address, and I would encourage people to talk to their doctor about it.
And not be dismissive about just not getting the rest. Okay, well, one of the last questions I have for you today is, are there any innovative behavioral interventions, any hope for our viewers today, or techniques that are emerging?
I do think there is a growing body of work or attention to mental well-being. So it doesn't have to be poor mental health necessarily as in a diagnosed disorder. Just we all need to be aware of our mental well-being. And there are new techniques or therapies out there that really help people think about what is going on in their mind and how that's affecting their outcomes. So to put it very simply, there are techniques that help you look at how your thoughts affect your feelings, how your feelings affect your actions, and how your actions affect your results. And so if you are immersed in negative thoughts, you're probably going to have negative results. And so if you feel very negatively about managing your diabetes, if you tell yourself, I can't do it, this is impossible, I've tried and I'm a failure, your feelings and your actions are going to wind up leading to negative results for your diabetes. So it's important to kind of work through some of those negative thoughts you might have in your mind and try to change the way you're approaching your diabetes management or the way you feel about it so that you can get the results that you want. It sounds easier than, it's easier said than done. And sometimes people do need help kind of working through those negative thoughts. But I mention it here just to get people thinking about it, because if you feel very poorly about how you're managing diabetes, you're just not going to be inspired to take the actions that will get you the results that you want. And it's important to recognize that and then get help for that if you need it.
Yeah, that such a wealth of knowledge. And when you shared that last connection, it makes me think about a sage saying, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So
Yep.
great information today. Ms. Reese, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you.
Stay tuned for closing thoughts. We'll be right back. We hope that today's show has been helpful and encouraging. There are practical tools that can assist you with diabetes and stress management. Remember to press pause. Recovery is real, and help and hope is here for you. It's also very important that you conduct periodic self-awareness checks from time to time to monitor and see how well you're doing. And if you're not doing okay, it is okay to ask for help. Thank you again to today's guests, Latrina Foster and Amy Reese. The Department of Senior Services exists to support independence, help, and delay cognitive decline through programs for seniors, caregivers, and the community. We accomplish this by providing programs in group and individual settings through preventive, intervention, and supportive services. We welcome your feedback and the opportunity to speak with you further about these and more services. Please contact us at 404-613-6000, or you may email us at seniorservices@fultoncountyga.gov. You can also follow us at Fulton Info. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Connect, powered by the Department of Senior Services.